Howdy, my name is Serena. I'm a co-director at the Pueblo Food Project, and today I'm going to walk us through Pueblo Food Project's food action plan and strategic planning timeline for 2025. So first, we'll just lay a little bit of context as to how we got here. This might be repetitive for some, but for others, this might be your first time. And so I wanted to just lay a little bit of groundwork and to understanding how we got to this point. So Pueblo Food Project was established in 2019 as a loose coalition of stakeholders and community members interested in creating a better food system here in Pueblo County. We were originally operating under the mayor's office up until this year in April when we left the city of Pueblo mayor's office and became fiscally sponsored under the Hadanu Collective. But we did a lot of great work between our founding and this point that we're at now. So we functioned primarily from working groups for about 2 years. Those working groups laid a lot of the groundwork for the current programming that we offer today, as well as really setting the foundation for the Pueblo Food Project and convening what is today and still our coalition. It became clear towards the beginning of 2022 that we were hitting a limit in our capacity for staff. We had a leadership transition, and it became clear that we needed to start focusing more internally in order to be sustainable as an organization. So our working groups stopped meeting and gave way to what were called priority groups. Those groups were each focused on a different area of the organization, including finance, governance, stakeholders, and building a toolkit for Pueblo Food Project. The work of the priority groups is what ultimately led to us transitioning out of the city of Pueblo and becoming a fiscal sponsee under Hadanu Collective. And we also convened our first board of directors in the fall of 2023. So that brings us to where we are here at the end of 2024, going into 2025, when we're ready to really dig into the why of our work and think really strategically about what we're going to do and set out to do as an organization for the future. So in February of 2024, our founding board gathered in person for a whole day retreat to really focus on the why of our work. What are we trying to do in the community? Pueblo Food Project was founded with a lot of amazing momentum, and we had a lot of great resources financially and others handed to us, but it became clear that there was a lack of a strategic vision for the organization as a whole. So that's what our founding board of directors gathered to try to look at. And ultimately, that's where we're still at today and why we're putting together these plans. So our board of directors looked at the following problem statements and developed result statements. So these are very much our North Star for ourselves as an organization. Our vision of the Pueblo Food Project is to create a more vibrant, nutritious, and equitable food system for every eater in Pueblo County. And the results that we seek under that grand vision that we have are that all people of Pueblo have access to nourishing food, can use their power to make choices about their food, and can connect to their community, their culture, the land, and each other through food. We presented these result statements to the coalition in April or May of 2024, and it became clear that we needed to stress test these statements in front of more people, more community members, and organizations before we designed our whole strategic plan around them. So that brings us to this. We are in the process of creating both a food action plan and a strategic plan. So I'll talk for a little bit about what each of these plans entails. The food action plan is a Pueblo-wide action plan. It does not just involve Pueblo Food Project. It focuses on equity-centered, community-level targets and comprehensive strategies that require collaboration among organizations. We're thinking really big with the food action plan. The goal, strategies, and objectives will be determined based on our current findings from the discovery phase that we're in. I'll chat about that more in the next slide. But what that's looked like has been community engagement sessions, surveys, community partner interviews, and analysis of existing assessments on public health and food access in Pueblo. The scope of the food action plan will be determined by the Pueblo Food Project Coalition, as well as partner organizations. It could be a 3 to 5 year plan. It could be a 10 to 15 year plan. That's for us to decide. Whereas our Pueblo Food Project strategic plan is specific to PFP as an organization. The goals, strategies, and objectives of our strategic plan will be shaped by the food action plan. So you can think of it kind of being nested under that wider food action plan for Pueblo. How is PFP helping to achieve those goals within our own operations? It'll include a financial sustainability component for PFP as an organization, and it'll also include an organizational chart that outlines the balance of work and responsibilities between PFP staff, our board, our working groups, and the coalition. I want to point out that Pueblo Food Project is not stopping any programs while we create these plans. However, one of the objectives of the strategic plan will be to better outline the why of our programs and more clearly define the goals and strategies within each program. And those goals and strategies will be informed by the food action plan and our result statements, which we read on the previous slide. So here's our timeline for how we're planning on getting there. So we're currently in this phase one of the timeline that we started this fall of 24. That'll take us into February of 2025, which is the information gathering and analysis. So as I mentioned, we're currently in the discovery phase. We're hosting community engagement events. We've held these on the east side, the west side, and the Bessemer neighborhoods. We're also conducting community surveys that'll be focused on engaging community members, specifically in the agriculture and farming communities, as well as our Spanish-speaking neighbors. We'll be conducting community partner interviews. This is being done by the Civic Canopy, one of our partners and technical assistance providers. And we're also reviewing existing community health data and assessments. So we're in this discovery phase right now. In January and February of 2025, the PFP Coalition will hear case studies from other coalitions, both in Colorado and outside of the state, who have written a food action plan. And the purpose of this is to get us thinking about what we want ours to look like and to learn from the stories and experiences of other coalitions who have gone through a similar planning. We'll also be convening our financial sustainability working group in January of 2025. So that'll bring us to March, where we're going to be presenting findings and determining goals. So we'll be presenting our initial findings from this discovery phase at the Sun Soil Water Summit. Our coalition meetings in March will be a little bit extra longer to allow us time to really dig into what we found, what are the themes and patterns that we found from our discovery phase, and pull out from those findings goals and priorities for the food action plan. We'd like to determine and approve of what our goals will be in March, and then determine the scope of the food action plan. So again, deciding how narrow or wide do we want it to be? What's the timeline? Is it a 3-year plan? Is it a 20-year plan? That's for us to decide. And then PFP staff will start outlining the food action plan and strategic plan based on what those goals and the scope is going to be. That'll bring us into April and May, where we'll be determining our strategies and then continuing to outline the plans. So the coalition will determine and approve of what strategies we're going to take to achieve our goals, as well as determining partner organizations for each strategy. So we really want collaboration to be baked into this plan. As I mentioned, this isn't just going to be Pueblo Food Project taking on whatever emerges from our findings. We want this to be a Pueblo-wide plan in which many organizations, where it makes sense, are involved in moving the work forward. And then throughout this time, staff will be writing the plans based on the approved strategies, goals, and scope. We'll also meet with the partner orgs that are determined for each strategy to get their buy-in and start to bring them into the fold if they aren't already. So that'll bring us into June and July, where we're going to finalize and approve of our plans and begin implementation. So in June, we're going to present our food action plan and strategic plan to the coalition. We'll make any last minute adjustments as needed, but the goal would be to approve of both of those plans in June. That'll take us into July when we can begin implementation. So we'll prioritize our strategies, and that'll inform our timeline for implementation. And then based on what we decide to prioritize in terms of a timeline and what strategies we're going to work on first, we'll establish action teams, which are essentially working groups that'll meet to get the work done. So those groups will draft work plans and action menus, which will carry the work forward. And at this point, we're rocking on implementation. So once those work plans and action menus are finalized, then those groups can get to the work. Part of that will be collaborative grant writing to fund whatever new projects or initiatives might emerge. Again, this is kind of the unknown. We'll know more about what specifically we'll be working on based on the work that we do in these first couple of months of the year. So we hope you'll join us. We'll be doing a lot of this work at Pueblo Food Project Coalition meetings, which you can get more information on our website. And feel free to reach out to myself if anything comes up, you have questions or want to get more involved with this work. Thanks.